Hi, everybody. Thanks
Hi.
for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
So, got the water sorted out? Yeah, here we go. Right, let's just get right to it. So, Emily, you guys started with a blog, Into the Gloss. Then you moved into, expanding the beauty brand. You've gone into Glossier. Tell me a little bit about that story. Can you take us through how you decided to do that? Was that something you always knew you would do from the beginning, or did you go into that thinking blog and then beauty?
So everything we've done for coming up on 4 years, it'll be in October, has been based on the fundamental belief that beauty is an incredible conduit for connection. It's something that women, men, all of us deal with on a day-to-day basis, our decisions about what we put on our body, what works for us. And the interesting thing about the beauty industry, and this is a $450 billion global market, it's going to $750 billion in 6 years, so it's growing 7% faster than the developed world's GDP. The interesting thing about this industry is that it's held the reins for so long when it comes to expertise, direction, and tops-down messaging. And so fundamentally, any product that we've created at our company, including Into the Gloss and then leading up to our first brand, Glossier, has been built bottoms up. It's been built with absolutely nothing between us and the final end user. And that might sound really normal, like of course beauty brands, all the things that we're using are built with us in mind. But in fact, so many of the conglomerates that exist, their end user is actually the third-party retailer and that third-party retailer's needs. So our mission from the beginning has been to break down those walls so we could build better product, and that has led us to consistent triple-digit growth for 3 years, 70% or more of which has been through peer-to-peer, not through paid marketing.
Yeah, but when you first started it was like 2011, right? Into the Gloss, yes. And then you kind of did Glossier 3 years later. Did you know in 2011 that that's what you'd be doing, or did you start one and think, where's the revenue, where's the revenue? Okay, look.
No, we've actually never thought about where's the revenue. We've
Okay.
always thought about where are the unmet needs from people. We've always put people at the forefront of any decision and thought, what's the next best product, whether that's a digital tool, which we're embarking on now, building, or whether that's a physical product. And it so happened that in the exploration of having human conversations for 2 years and publishing those conversations, a lot of unmet needs were uncovered.
Okay, gotcha. Kirsten,
Yeah.
you guys got interested in Into the Gloss at what point?
When Emily was, she had the blog up and running.
Yeah.
And when we started our conversation, it kicked off with Emily's observations about all of the learnings she'd gathered from that experience and all of the unmet needs.
Right.
So really, I think what captured my imagination about the opportunity to work with Emily from the very beginning had to do with her incredible insight and instinct around the consumer. And this idea that she came from a place of I know these people and I see what they want and I see what they need and what's missing in the market. And it was that was the original place that the business idea was coming from.
Yeah, that's probably the best formula for doing an e-commerce business at all, right?
It's critical because that's the magic that's what the real opportunity today is to build something for like Emily said, for the end user, which is the customer. And that's the biggest shift among many other shifts that are influencing changes in the retail ecosystem is just the consumer's path to purchase.
Yeah.
And how they're discovering things, how they're identifying with ideas, how they're feeling compelled to shop. That has all evolved, and a lot of it has to do with that connection that gets built with the consumer.
When you're going into looking at, evaluating e-commerce opportunities for fundings, that's really where your specialty is.
Yeah.
As an investor. Where are you? How do you have boxes that you tick, or do you not worry about things like, do they have a website, or they're too dependent on another platform like Instagram or something like that?
I think we kind of try to challenge ourselves to start from a bigger picture place, which is, what is really going on in this big ecosystem that is retail? Where are the opportunities? Where is the dislocation happening? And where are the opportunities to play into that and enter the market with a wedge?
Okay.
Ultimately, what we're looking at doing is investing investing in companies that we believe, of course, have the opportunity to be meaningful standalone businesses, but that are really must-have assets, are companies that are doing something fundamentally unique in the context of the market they play in that adds to the opportunity and the value.
So, Emily, you guys, you've described how you've been able to identify this customer and everything. I mean, that customer is, correct me if I'm wrong, it's a female.
Yes, mostly. Yeah.
And it tends to be, mostly female, tends mostly on the younger side rather than, let's say, older women or
You'd be
girls.
surprised.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Which I mean, I think speaks to the emotional place that you're connecting
Yes.
from.
Well,
Because
yeah.
that does not have age boundaries. That is a psychographic opportunity.
I agree. So does that mean that you're going to start doing stuff for, older women or little girls or let's say men?
Yes.
Is that
So-
something you're looking at? Male
yeah,
products?
I mean, the interesting thing, and Kirsten, you mentioned this just now about Glossier and how we approach beauty in general, is that today it's much more about a psychographic than it is a demographic. The great thing about our core, brand of Glossier is that these are fundamental, essential beauty products for every single person. Whether you need a moisturizer or even a, chapstick, we have Balm.com. It's one of our best-selling products. Every one of our investors has one in their bag right now. So
Guys
we
and girls.
approach.
They smell good.
Yeah, they smell great.
I'm
Guys
wearing it
love
right now.
mint. But we fundamentally approach, product development from the standpoint of how can we create this, core foundation, almost like underwear of every person's beauty routine. And the interesting thing about another thing you just mentioned, Kirsten, is that the path to purchase here for beauty products has so long been held by a lot of complex tops-down marketing. And what we've noticed over the last 3 years of growth is that people are helping other people, period. Every single person, whether it is, you'd be amazed at the millennial customer who passes our products to her mother, or the person who, the aunt of a daughter who's in the mirror at our showroom meeting a teenager next to her who's asking her what color boy brow she's putting on. So this is an incredible connective experience, and it's a lightning rod for conversation. And the connections that are formed through beauty and the ability for our products, whether it is our forthcoming platform or whether it is our physical products, the ability for those to help people tell their story is really interesting. And in particular, when you look at what's happened with social media to date, there was a lot of hopefulness 5 years ago, 4 years ago even, around the ability to democratize media, and the ability for individuals to influence other people. Now we're in an era where we're seeing a lot of the underbelly and a lot of the shadow side of that democratization. And I think emerging out of that is going to be a lot of more specific topical narratives that people are opining on through new social channels. And so as we look towards the future of our product development, of other unmet needs, our users are going to continue to tell us that, because they're going to have conversations with each other, and we're going to get very smart in a scalable way, leveraging data, leveraging technology to help people tell their stories, find the information they need about beauty on the internet, on a dedicated platform, and those conversations, they'll tell us what they want, and we can make it for them.
Okay. Let me just turn the conversation to you, Kirsten. Now, we've got a lot of beauty and fashion brands, and e-commerce in general is really, as Emily was saying, really focused on using social platforms to sort of spread the word and everything. We're going to come back to what you guys are doing in 2 seconds, but how much do you feel that it's important for the companies that you're funding to have their own platforms versus being too dependent on the third parties? Do you think the third parties are always going to be there, or do you think that we need to build more self-sustaining stuff? We had Bumble on stage yesterday, and they said that they've, most of their logins are no longer Facebook logins, and I think that's a really interesting point. They're really moving off that platform. So what do you think about that? Do you worry about that with your companies?
So I think we look at our hope is to partner with founders looking to build companies that reach large swaths of customers in deep connected ways. And we believe that part of building a big business is showing up in various places, if not as many places as your customer shows up. So kind of from the beginning, we allow ourselves or challenge ourselves to dream about how might this company show up in social media, on its own website, in somebody else's store, as part of an entertainment, in just many different incarnations. I think that's one of the biggest opportunities in business today and challenges today is just to meet the consumer in so many different places. And the opportunity in that is that you really have a chance to articulate your vision, your brand, and your personality of your brand in so many different ways that that's the place where you have a chance to build loyalty and a deeper connection, because product in so many ways has become table stakes. Like a consumer has so much choice out there.
Right.
Yeah.
And
There's such a breadth of product, and there's so little breadth of connection.
right. So,
Yeah.
I mean, we think about it from the standpoint that having a great product and a strong value proposition is table stakes.
Yep.
The win comes from developing a relationship with your consumer.
Yeah,
And in so many ways, talking about a brand is kind of like talking about a person's personality. And the real, opportunity is to kind of use it in an expressive way in many different places. And what we're interested in is building businesses that reach customers in those ways.
Well, I think that's a really interesting point because, I'm sure you guys saw the reports. I think they came out earlier this week that Instagram is working on a social shopping network.
Yep.
I'd love to hear what you guys think about that. I think that to me, it sounds like, it completely fits into what you're saying because what it is it's about the data. Who owns the customer? Who understands the customer? You can send all kinds of things to them. What are they going to buy? And who controls the information about what the customer wants to buy?
I mean, it's incredibly
yeah.
powerful. You just heard Emily talk about it being at the core and center of our business. And I think that's that today there's businesses being invented that way and it's their advantage over time. That's just going to be the norm too, because really you're tasked with building a relationship with your customer, and you have to have the insights to be able to do that.
What's your take on this Instagram report?
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, 72% of millennials make their purchasing decisions for beauty or fashion products through Instagram.
Right.
I mean, Glossier has a long relationship with Instagram. We launched on the platform before we even had our website up 4 years ago. We actually just hired our head of product from Instagram, Keith Paris. He led DMs and camera at Instagram. Instagram's an incredible tool. I think one of the challenges might be that these platforms were not built around specific topics. They were built around specific media expressions. So if you look at YouTube, beauty's, I think, the second biggest category on YouTube. It's following consumer, I think, tech unboxing videos. This may be outdated information, but it's still kind of hard to be able to search for what is the best mascara. And when you look at a platform even like Amazon, no woman has ever told me that their criteria for best mascara was what is fastest or cheapest.
Yeah.
That's not how people are buying emotional things like a fashion or a beauty product, but the leading paradigm of what an e-commerce experience gives you is one of efficiency and one of breadth of product. When what users are actually doing and wanting is a breadth of connection, and to understand whose story do I want to believe when it comes to best mascara. So, at Glossier, that has been since, day one, back in the Into the Gloss days, putting the individual at the center and having the product follow, rather than the other way around.
Okay.
And I mean, I think that doesn't necessarily exist today, and that's what we see as the future of retail and the big opportunity. But you see people tempted to take actions on these other platforms because they're there for entertainment, they're there for discovery, and it's happening.
Do you think that that's potentially a threat to individual brands when you see a platform like Instagram trying to move into these areas? Because, I mean, I would guess that if this works, if they do it and it works, they will do it for fashion, they will do it for
And you know what? I
consumer
mean,
electronics.
honestly, to the extent that we have businesses that start with selling their own product and start with kind of just doing it off of their own site, I like nothing more than for more great channels for those brands and companies to reach customers. And so, like, I think it's a benefit. I think that it gets the product out in more places. You know, shopping is not a one-size-fits-all experience. People want to have it in different ways, and like, I'm all for that. In many ways, I think that, like, I don't want to get too crazy drawing analogs, but if you think about kind of, you know, big box retailers or big mass retailers or department stores where they housed all kinds of things, and part of the draw was that you could find so many things there. That was a huge, powerful, you know, there is a role for that in retail, and like that experience has underperformed relative to consumer, but they still like that aggregated performance, and some of it is being transferred over to these platforms,
Yeah.
like an Instagram.
Yeah. Okay. You mentioned Amazon. Can we talk about them for a second? Now, they're doing a really interesting thing in fashion, just to use a kind of adjacent area of business. They've become a massive presence in it. For ages, a ton of fashion brands didn't want to have anything to do with Amazon. They would not sell into them to be resold. Over time, we've seen a gradual loosening up of that because it's Amazon, and they've built all their own brands, and now Nike or J. Crew or whoever is now working with them. How is it working with them for you guys? Do you ever sell into them now?
No. So that would
No way.
no. No, we don't.
Do you plan to?
I think no.
Have they approached you?
A lot of people have approached Glossier.
That's a yes.
The interesting thing about Amazon and, you know, how they've addressed just obviously like one of the biggest consumer needs, which is, you know, solving buying, is that in the process, in some ways, they've kind of killed shopping.
Amazon killed shopping.
I mean, you know, the
Facilitated
Very
buying
interesting.
and killed shopping.
Okay, yeah.
emotional
Amazon
co-
facilitated buying but killed shopping. That's a great.
And, you know, I think in terms of breadth of product,
Yeah.
obviously no one will ever beat them. They have done the most phenomenal job, right? But that's not it's a little bit like saying, oh, I live on a street and there's a sushi restaurant.
Right.
I'm going to eat at this sushi restaurant every night. I'm going to do takeout. I'm going to go there for my anniversary. I'm going to have date night. I'm going to have my best friend's birthday there. The sushi restaurant meets all of my needs when it comes to dining. You know, e-commerce is 10% of global commerce. That's nothing. We are at the dawn of e-commerce. And this is one user experience, and it's a phenomenal user experience. In terms of beauty or fashion, where you're literally watching 72% of millennials making their decisions based off of Instagram, it's proof that people are looking for other people. And you have almost 80% of people who won't buy something before reading a review, whether it's on Amazon or Google or whatever it is. So I think it's exciting that we are really at the dawn of e-commerce and that there's going to be so many paradigms. And what we're focused on building is an emotional commerce experience, which is focused on a breadth of connection and not a breadth of product.
How do you advise your portfolio companies, Kirsten, when it comes to Amazon? Because I mean, they are literally like the elephant in the e-commerce arena.
Right.
You know, you said it perfectly.
I mean, I think it's on a case-by-case basis. You know, I think you've got to put it in the context of kind of, you know, what else, what are the underpinnings of your business model? What are the core products that you're selling? What can you get out of it? And there might be a place for it. There's a lot of customers there. There's a lot of eyeballs there. There's a lot of people originating searches there. So it's a little bit about like, what do you stand to get from that? Is the access worth maybe what you're losing? You know, is there something important in terms of information that's being shared that you feel like maybe threatens an opportunity you have? And I think for some categories, that's truer than other categories.
Do you think, though, I mean, Glossier is really big with its demographic. It's really amazing, where you've done a great job. Do you think, though, that gives you some sort of advantage? Because I know that Amazon is desperate to have more of your customers for other things. Have they ever, is there a scenario that you could imagine where you might want to work with them more?
I think it's tough because, the reason Glossier's NPS is consistently 80 year over year when other beauty companies are somewhere between 40 and 50 is because of our direct connection with every single person.
Yeah.
Our ability to develop better products because we're involving our customer. Our ability to react immediately when we get a DM, which I think happens every second at this point. We have such such an incredible visceral connection with all of our users where you really have to balance, do we go and meet people's needs where they want to be met, which is really important. If someone's on Amazon searching for Glossier, they're gonna have to come over to Glossier. That is a user need, right? So we're not naive to that, but at the same time you have to balance, how does that threaten the people-powered ecosystem that we have built and that we are building that leads to an 80 NPS, that leads to a more satisfied user experience?
Okay, good answer. Okay, I'm just going to shift this just a tiny bit to talk a little more business. Now, you guys how much have you raised in funding?
Oh, gosh, I think 82.
82. Where are you sitting now? I know that generally speaking, e-commerce tends to be a very capital-intensive business. You're always needing to acquire customers, you're growing, there's logistics, there's all kinds of stuff that takes up money.
Yes.
So, are you needing to raise more? I know that you've done a round
Absolutely
recently.
not. So there's a few things that are really interesting about this category. The first is, very high margins. The second is we have no seasonality. These are evergreen products that we spend. We have a quality process and a development process that is quite literally the opposite of fast fashion. These are products that, if you look at, a SKU like Clinique's Dramatically Different Moisturizer, this is a moisturizer that makes hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars that was invented one time in 1962, right?
It's
that
pretty
some
amazing.
of us use,
They've never changed
today.
it. I don't think they've changed it.
Cross-generational,
Yeah.
global, and so we are fortunate to have a really great business, and the only reason for us to raise more capital at this point is to buy something or to open zillions of stores, but stores are not our growth lever. They could be, but we believe in Glossier.com as a direct channel, and we believe in investing the capital that we've raised in the development of Glossier.com as a superior beauty experience than any of the ones that exist today.
Okay. Kirsten, do you feel that, given how much e-commerce companies do raise in funding, some of them do well and some crash and burn, as you know, do you think that there's a formula there? Would you say that there is possible to do I think that's relatively speaking, a pretty modest amount of money that you guys have raised in the world of e-commerce. Do you think that that's better formula in general? Or are you seeing too much money being thrown in this industry right now? Because, when you have a SoftBank that has so much money to spend and needs to invest it, they will start putting it into all kinds of things, smart and not smart.
Yeah, I think anytime any business takes capital, you really need to think about what is the ROI potential on that capital, and how additive is it to the value you're generating, and so part of it is having an awareness around that and what the different opportunities for that are in your business. The truth is that yes, e-commerce businesses can or have taken a lot of money. I think there's a lot of changes in the business models today that are differentiating those needs from one business to the other. We have several businesses that are selling products that are doing it in a made-to-order way, that are doing it in a customized way, that have very different kind of inventory turn patterns. I think that there's different philosophies on how you go about building your business, and a lot of that can tie back to how much money. Do you go and search for kind of beyond product market fit? Do you go search for product positive unit economics before you start pursuing growth, or do you pursue growth ahead of that? And that can change the dynamic on how much capital you're raising too. And I think you have to keep it in the context of, what business are you building for whom and what opportunity in the market.
So no specific formula. There's no one size fits all.
There's not. There's definitely there's definitely a set of metrics and a set of things to consider, but I think that you can map them in different ways.
You don't think that we're in an overheated market for e-commerce or anything like that right now?
I think we're in an overheated market in general.
Yes.
So I think
Including
it
this
requires.
stage.
I think it requires people to it requires founders to be that much more disciplined about what it does. And Emily and I have had conversations all along the way about the opportunity that we're getting, that exists when we get more capital into the business, and also the doors that we might be closing with that too, or the hurdles that we might have to be challenging ourselves too. So I think you just really need to be very conscious of why you're taking the money, what you're going to do with it, and what that gives you and what that takes away from you.
Emily, are you guys profitable yet?
I can't comment on that.
Are you cash flow positive yet?
I'm not going to comment on numbers, but
Okay.
we have a ton of runway that we're primarily actually just really investing in people. Kat Lake from Stitch Fix just joined our board, really amazing addition, and in terms of people we're hiring right now, it's a very exciting time for the company.
Do you still feel like Into the Gloss is a core part of the business in quite the same way? Since
You know,
we've
it's
spent
funny.
all the time basically talking about Glossier.
Well,
not
yeah,
Into Gloss.
it is part of our brand team. It
Yeah.
is a two-person team.
Yeah.
It is not a growth channel. It's not
Yeah.
a growth channel for us. I think it really.
But you're going to keep it going, right?
I think
It's an
it really
important foundational part.
It really created, and the important thing is, if you look at, let's say, AOL Instant Messenger creating messaging, Into the Gloss served to create a really unique user behavior, which was to democratize beauty and to make everyone their own expert, and to really, again, flip that, invert the entire system of product person to go person product.
Yeah.
And I think the most interesting thing for us is how we can scale that, and this is why we're investing so heavily in technology, and our company's already ramping up to almost be 50% technology. How can we take that user behavior that now is the norm for beauty, and how do you scale that? How do you enable everyone to have their own top shelf?
Yeah. I have to say, I was looking at it this morning, and two very relevant articles for me. They have nothing to do with makeup at all. One was how to deal with bags under your eyes,
Something that-
after you wake up in the morning. And the other about long-haul flights. I'm flying back to London tonight, so I think it's very cool.
It's incredible what happens if you see what, again, beauty being a conduit for connection is incredible. You start out asking someone, what lipstick are you wearing? And
Yeah.
you wind up, becoming roommates or,
Yeah. Interesting.
getting
intimate
hired at this
category.
company.
Yeah.
So it's an incredible way to have a voice.
Yeah. Okay, we're out of time, but thank you so much, you two. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thanks very much.